So this is going to be the first video on installing Unity and creating a new project. To install Unity, you'll have to go to unity.com. It's just up here. Go into Developer Tools and click Download Unity. You can either go through the first-time users guided learning path, or if you just want the standard Unity installer, you can go to the returning users. It doesn't extremely matter for this set of videos, but yes. So if you click on this, it'll give you the terms of service, and if you click agree and download, it'll download an installer. Now here's a program I've installed earlier, which is what you'll get, except you won't see these options here, as these are just the projects that I have already created. Once you have installed Unity Hub, you may need to sign in by clicking up here. And once you have done that, you should go to Installs. You want to add a new installation of Unity and install Unity 2020.3.18 F1 long-term support is what this LTS stands for. If you have any other Unity version, then you're going to have trouble with trying to basically open the same files that anyone else is opening. And if you're too far off, you might even have trouble following along with a lot of the instructions. After that, it's going to ask you what type of modules you want to install. I would recommend getting Microsoft Visual Studio Community. I already have it on this computer, so I won't be checking this box. But should. The next options that you're going to want to check is if you are going to be trying to create one for an Android, so Android phone. You're going to want to check Android build support. If you're going to try and build it for an Mac phone, an Apple phone, then you're going to want to select iOS build support. If you're not sure, you can select both. It'll just take up a bit more space on your computer and take a little bit longer. The Windows build support is always good as well. I would recommend you also click that if you're using Windows. If you're not using Windows, the Mac build support, you should probably click. You can read through these if you want. And now you wait. And we're back. Okay, so this is now installed. You should have this. It should say iOS if you have that. This is a different version of Unity, which I also have installed for other projects. Then what you're going to want to do is click on the Projects section. Click New. These are the normal templates. There are some information about them. I'd recommend for your first one just going with the normal 3D. When you're doing the AR projects, it may be better to go for another one, like this Universal Render Pipeline, or mobile ones, or the actual AR one. You give the project a name, you give it a location, and then you click Create. And it will go through the process of creating it. In this case, I'm not going to create one because I've already done that. It will take a little while for the creation to complete, as it needs to process a bunch of things. If you have already created a project, you'll find it in here. You can click on it, and it will open it up. It'll go through a process of loading, which might take a little bit. Okay, there we go. Unity has opened. Now mine might look slightly different from yours because I am using the dark theme. You should have the same layout as I have here by default. I'll just go through what we can see here. The first and most obvious one is this middle panel here, which is called the Scene View. The Scene View is where you can see everything that is inside your game or project, however you want to call it. The other little tab up here by default is the game view, which what that does is show you what the game is seeing, which is basically from the camera in the scene, which you can see is right here. Also in this scene, there is a light, a directional light. Now, while the scene shows you everything inside this 3D space, the hierarchy, which is over here on the left, shows you everything in a hierarchical structure. It lists all of the game objects, which is to say all of the things. Game object is the term, just means something. A 3D model, a light, a camera, anything that can be placed into the scene is a game object. There's also the add button up here, which allows you to add in new game objects, which you can see include cameras, UI elements, and various other things, including a bunch of normal shapes. If you want to have more complex shapes, or you want to have audio assets or anything like that, you're going to need to look down here at the project window. The project window shows every asset in your project. For instance, this scene is here. If you want to add any 3D model that you just have on your computer, you can simply drag it from your Explorer or whatever it is on your File Explorer or whatever it is on Mac into the assets. If you have a 3D model or an audio file or a video or any other asset that you might want to use inside the Unity project. It's also home to the console, which shouldn't matter unless you're scripting or have something go very, very wrong. Here on the right, there is the inspector. Now the inspector shows you information about whatever you're selecting. So for instance, I can select the directional light inside the hierarchy, and it will show me its transform, which is its position within the scene, what it is, that's like what it has in it, which is a light. This game object has a light, and that light is directional, and the color, which I can change easily by just clicking around on here. You can change what sort of mode it is, all kinds of things. You do the same thing with the main camera. We can look at it and we can say, oh look, we've got options for the skybox. If we change that to a solid color, you can see that it does that. And you can also change its position from here by typing in the numbers. If you don't want to type in numbers over here, you can use the scene view to change its position by dragging on one of these arrows. These flat planes here drag along two axes. So dragging along the blue will drag it along, or dragging the blue plane will drag it along the X and Y axis, but not the Z axis. So that allows you to move things around a little bit faster if you want to work like that. If you right-click anywhere inside the scene view and hold it, you can look around. Which allows you to change your scene camera position. And then you can press the W, A, S, and D keys. For anyone who's played a lot of games, that will be familiar to you, to be able to move around the scene. A D to move left or right, A to move left, W to move forward, and S to move backwards, just like it was arrow keys. If you hold, like, this is while you're holding right click. If you try and press those, they won't do anything while you're not. So you can use this to sort of fly around and get a better view by combining moving the mouse around to change your angle of view and doing this. If you want to lock to a specific angle, you can use this little thing up in the corner to look directly down, to the side, or any other directions. If you want to line something up very precisely and don't want to have to deal with the perspective view, you can click on this little perspective where it says perspective, and I'll change it to orthographic, basically making it, or isometric. Orthographic if you click on any of these. Basically just instead of making an angled vision so that you have some sense of depth, everything will appear to be at the same depth. It will just squash them all into the same depth. There's a toolbar up here, which allows you to change your tools. So for instance, right now we are on the moving tool, which means we can move the camera around. If you click here, you can change to the rotate tool, which allows you to rotate your selected object. On any of the axes, or do a sort of rotation based on your camera position. If you sort of grab this outside white circle, which can be useful. Additionally, there is a scale tool, which allows you to scale up or down. In the case of a camera, it doesn't do much. I'll show you it more when we have an actual object in the scene. There are also some other tools, like a rect tool, which is only used with UI elements. This, which brings up all of the scaling, moving, and rotating things at the same time. And some other ones, like if you have custom tools, this one will show up. And if you want to move around without using the W, A, S, and D keys, you can click this hand button to get the hand tool out. And you're able to drag yourself around. If you have a mouse, you can also middle click to immediately go to the hand tool and move your camera view around. So now let's add something to this scene. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the hierarchy, I'm going to click this create object, and I'm just going to create a cube. So that'll be simple. Nice and simple cube. You can see that it's appeared over here inside the scene. You can also see it's appeared here in this hierarchy. We can move it in. If we click here, you can see the game. What you see here is a preview of the camera. Since it's the main camera, it is also a preview of the game view. Yeah, we can move this up into place. And what you're seeing here is the effects of me changing that light, which is that all default things are simply this sort of gray default color. Since I had a green light, it was lit green. So yes, now we can see that we have this white cube here. So change it to sort of what it had previously. We can also add other ones. For instance, we could add a plane. This would be a large flat surface. Just move that under the cube. So that is in camera view. And there we go. You can see it. You can see that the cube casts a shadow on the plane because that's the direction that the directional light is going. It doesn't matter where this directional light is. This is basically the sun. So if we rotate it, you can see that it rotates like the sun was moving, not like this. There was a light in this location that was being rotated. I'll show you what happens now. When you want to play the game, when you want to see what happens when you start it, you can click this play button, and it will start it up. Right now, nothing is happening. We just have these items inside the scene. Another thing that you can do inside this inspector is add components to your game objects. So I'm going to take this box, and I'm going to add a component, which is a physics component. We are going to add a rigid body. Now, rigid bodies are the main physics element inside Unity. So you can see that once I added the rigid body, it appeared inside the inspector. It has a mass, it has drag, it has angular drag, it has a checkbox for if it's using gravity or not, there's a checkbox if it's kinematic, and various other different options. So now if I click play, the cube is going to start getting affected by gravity, since I have this use gravity check. So now you can watch it fall to the ground. And if we come over here and we rotate it slightly, and by slightly I mean quite a bit, we can hit play, and it will fall to the ground and fall over. If you want to change how a simple object looks, you have to change its material. And we can do that by creating an asset. Now, you can either create assets that exist outside of Unity by just dragging them onto the project panel, or you can create them by right-clicking and going to the Create option. Then what we're going to want to do is we're going to be wanting to create a material in this case. There's other options for many different things, including animation, if you're going to be doing anything like that. This is how you create that. We can give it a name, maybe blue. That's a good color. And we can change some things about it. In this case, I'm just going to leave everything normal and just change it to be blue. You can see a example of it appears down here, and also right here. If I change the color a bit, you can see that that one changes. Then if we jump back to this, we can take this blue, we can drag it onto here, we can add it as a component. And now you can see that it is blue. And now if we hit play, we're going to get a blue box that drops from the sky and land on the side. So that's going to be it for this initial video. If you have any questions based on this, go ahead and send me them in the Discord.